and welcome. Fresh from the Kakamega elections.
Yes.
I don't know whether we should call them by-elections or are they part of the of the general elections. Now, just to, if I may bounce off the words of the Deputy Chief Justice Honorable Philomena Mwilu, and to quote her, "Ni kama video, ni kama drama." This was just as what she mentioned, that she's mesmerized by what is coming out as how so much has transpired that was not supposed to transpire. She was commenting on the management of the elections. Based on what you saw in Kakamega and even before you went to Kakamega during the general election, what is your take?
Thank you very much. I think one of the things I will first say is that you look at the whole process. I think many things started even before we went into that general election.
Right.
And I think at that time, the Chief Justice, there was the committee that was supposed to be put in place. And you remember, it brought a lot of issues. And I remember the Secretary General of UDA really complaining and saying that the Chief Justice cannot sit on that committee. And then will come and now oversee this.
Yes.
But maybe the committee would have helped in many of these things that we see today.
Right.
But having said that, I think also just going to the 9th, you want to imagine a process will be bungled is the time when the chairman comes out and says the elections of Kakamega and Mombasa and 5 other constituencies have been cancelled. And you ask yourself, had the commissioners gone to a meeting? Were they able, if today they are asked, do they have resolutions on why those counties could not go to the 2 gubernatorial and the 5 constituencies could not go to the election? And it is important, that question, to be asked, and I'm hoping it will be asked at one point in court.
Right.
That you can't just wake up alone, knowing very well this process started. People went to Greece, they used public resources, and they were supposed to go and look at all the issues, to ensure that at the ballots are done, the pictures are well.
Right.
And so I would wish to know what really happened for Kakamega and Mombasa to be cancelled. It's my prayer, because I would say that even as we went to Kakamega,
right,
when I looked at the turnout, I realized, yeah, you can decide to suppress voters that way, because when people are coming out to vote for their governors, then it gives a lot of, people become more aggressive, because you know you want your governor to win, and your members of parliament and your MCAs. And so when I look at that voter turnout and yesterday's voter turnout, both in Kakamega and Mombasa,
right,
then it brings a question. In terms of the constituencies, when I look at West Pokot, and you realize Lonyangapo lost, but he had 2 strong members of parliament, that is Posi and Lote. Those 2 would have maybe boosted Lonyangapo's bid, because looking at the terrain of Pokot and how they come out and vote, some maybe were very disappointed and they just decided to stay at home.
Right.
So those are some of the questions we need to look at. Now, coming on the 9th, and then now we head, first of all, every Kenyan should know the presidential elections are done at the constituency level.
I mean, you may need to say that again, Mheshimiwa. Are done at the
constituency level. And so anything to happen at Bomas is neither here nor there. Bomas is supposed to just bring in the results as they were transmitted from the constituency in a stream that is a polling station. Stream 1 of Dagoretti North, Gatina Ward,
right,
Gatina Primary.
Right.
You transmit the results of a presidential. And if anything happens wrong in that stream, then just know you'll have a challenge in the whole of Dagoretti North, which is an example I'm giving. And so for anyone to now come and think Form 34 is generated at Bomas, or will generate from the county level, or will generate from, it will be wrong.
Right.
So every stream is a polling center for a presidential election, and that is how you count that vote.
Very well. In case you're just joining us, our hashtag is the dawn of justice. We're coming to you live from the Azimio TV center right here in Nairobi, and in studio is Dagoretti North Member of Parliament elect Mheshimiwa Beatrice Elachi. Now, Mheshimiwa, there's almost a sense of helplessness in the part of Kenyans, because in retrospect, there is now mention of a report by KPMG that did mention some glaring issues in the IBC register. Lawyers Willis Otieno and Okiya Omtata alluded the fact that there are about 500,000 people in the register who are either duplicated or unidentified, and audit by IBC's own admission is that they are not sure of the register. It was not cleaned up. There are issues of 2 sets of Form 34As being printed. What ordinary Kenyans are asking, even if IBC is independent, isn't there anybody who could have noticed? Because from what we are hearing then, this election was destined to fail. Where was Bunge? Where was Senate? Where was anybody else who has any form of authority to watch over and say, hey, this is a red flag? Because now we are raising very serious issues, but rather very late in the day. So there's almost a sense of helplessness, as in this IBC, much as it's independent, can anything be done in good time, for example, to ensure that in future it doesn't happen?
See, one of the things we can ask Parliament, I mean, it was very unfortunate for Parliament to allow Chebukati to continue to be the chairman, because number one, you had already gone through an election and it was nullified.
Right.
Then you find yourself also with a CEO who, instead of recruiting directly from outside, you decided to take a CEO who was part of the same bad process and make him a CEO. Then you come, and I remember also our Azimio presidential candidates, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, questioned many of these processes, even went to Bomas. And there were 10 points he asked Chebukati. And in all those 10, the courts have now again picked a few of what he asked. It's part of, again, the same question we are going to ask the chairman to respond on it. It means that, number one,
yes,
the chairman never he disregarded like everything that every stakeholder was questioning. And now we come, and here we are. We are now about to find ourselves in more mess, because I think by the time we get to the ICT, by the time we look at
yes,
the constituencies, the polling centers that have been told to be reopened in 48 hours, I think if you reopen many, you can decide that everyone should just go back to an election. It can be very sad, but I can see that is how it is in many areas. Or if you reopen, a few will remain and most will just be disqualified. And so the question now that beckons Kenyans is that, you see, one of the things I want to really plead with Kenyans is one, we cannot allow ourselves as a country, first of all, to appreciate that when we do wrong, we think it is good wrong. There's no good wrong. Wrong is wrong.
right.
But it's like Kenyans, the way I've seen a trend, you know, this is wrong, but Kenyans will tell, oh, let's move on. Or you're in the constitution, you've been told you must have a degree. To Kenyans, let's move on. The courts come and just decide even also wrongly, and they feel it's okay, the courts have said. I think it's a very bad culture. And I think that's where we are now. And when I looked at Kakamega yesterday, you see, even when you see Kenya Kwanza talking,
yes,
you wonder what type of people are these. You have run all over, you bribed and bribed and bribed, but you think it's okay. It is wrong.
So in this case, is there any recourse for a voter if you're saying you witnessed bribing, and a lot of people have said they have witnessed, someone has been found with money, for example. We've seen video clips of members of parliament, former members of parliament, and it just seems that that's where it ends.
Yeah.
At the video clip and likes, and
No,
we don't see any follow-up in terms of criminal prosecution. I mean, is it against the law to bribe a voter?
It is. I mean, it is in the Elections Act. That is why you are told you can't buy them sodas, you can't buy them, I don't know what. It has this fine, it has 5 years. So it's there. What I don't understand, that's why I'm saying it is like a culture we are trying to inculcate to ourselves that, oh, doing these things is okay. I don't think it is. And I think even as a country, we are going to lose that dignity we've always had.
Right.
And so I want to tell Kenyans, you might think it's just about elections. It's not. The next thing you'll find yourself, you've gotten a job, and maybe you are going to an international company.
Yes.
And the first fear they'll have with this Kenyan is that Kenyans like lying, and Kenyans like bribing, and Kenyans can, you know. So you might lose your job just because of that, or an opportunity to work through an international company just because of our culture. And I think it is not right. So we must, first of all, just say it is wrong, and not just wrong, we must refuse completely any Kenyan who believes you can bribe governance.
Right.
It's a wrong Kenyan to be taken to a position where you are supposed to create laws for Kenyans, you know. And this selfishness that is taking us to another level has to stop.
Very well. Let me just read a quick comment. This is Hosea E. Lomoy, all the way from Lodwar, Turkana, watching. And unasalimiwa, mheshimiwa, anasema, well, I think I'll tell you that off camera. Anasema, he's alluding to the fact that you look a lot younger than he thought. I don't know if he met you elsewhere before. And thank you for watching all the way from Lodwar in Turkana. Now, without being in the danger of being declared sub judice, yes, and perhaps going into graphic details of proceedings that are before court, there has been a lot of push and pull around the issue of tallying, verification. Who is to do it? Is it the chairman's sole prerogative? Because it is coming out that about 5 commissioners were assigned other roles that were outside tallying and verification. Others media, others protocol, and only 3 persons, being the chairman and 2 others, were involved in the tallying. Now, if the majority of the commission that is not involved in tallying and verification, can you then say the commission tallied and verified? What's your take on that?
You see, now you go back to the Constitution, Article 138, 2 and 3.
Right.
It's very clear.
Yeah.
That the commission shall.
Yes.
They will verify, they will tally, and now agree upon. And now you go to 10 is when now the chairman announces the results. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at all that, before you even go to tally and verify, as I said, since it's a general election, and you decided some constituencies and counties will not do, you need to first, even yourself, even when you're giving your speech, mm-hmm, you must speak on that. Because it was a general election.
Yes.
And so, have you finished your general election? No. Mm-hmm. Have you decided these 2 have gone into a by-election? You have not explained. So the best you would have done first is all that, and they needed to have agreed on that also. Then you come now and agree. Until the commissioners agree that they verified, you have tallied, you have put together your Form 34C that now closes everything.
Yes.
It has to be agreed upon all the commissioners or majority of the commission. And there is no way in our law that they would have given the chairman powers alone. There is no place, because they know. And so for chairman to just decide, he's the one who will decide, he is the one who will announce, he is the one who will take care of the server. I think it was with impunity. That's the word I can use. That chairman used what I'll say, you've decided to dictate.
Right.
You decide that you don't need commissioners. Then, mm-hmm, what was the purpose of the commissioners?
Right.
Purpose of the commissioners, and this happened after the 2017 election. That is when they were told IEBC shall. It doesn't say chairman shall. No. It says IEBC shall verify and tally. You need to tally and ensure even the votes that you feel are spoiled votes, they'll have to come together. You give it a percentage. That percentage has to work within the total number of registered voters who were verified that they did this election. Now, the best thing that can happen, and if the chairman wants to come out of all this, he has to present his KIMS report. That KIMS report will show you who walked in and voted on that day. If you took manual, there was a process of how you should be identified when you're manual. You have to take a picture, have your ID, take the picture, sign a form that was there. And so he cannot tell me those forms are lost. No, they're there. So you will know how many people who were able to vote manually and how many were identified by the KIMS.
Right.
The other thing now we need to ask ourselves, with all these discrepancies and disparities in terms of the numbers, I think one of the things that the chairman should explain to Kenyans is, and I know the courts questioned in 2017, they're going to question the same thing again. Tell us how, and I'll give an example. In Nyandarua County, that they can vote for the president, they can vote for a governor, but 45,000 people cannot vote for your woman rep. How? And many other places where you could see, I mean, you ask yourself, you just woke up and you didn't want, and yet it's like the area has decided this is the party we are in. So if you are all in that party, definitely all the votes that went to the governor and went to the woman,
to the others.
They would, in terms of your numbers, ought to come to this woman rep. So that's another question. And I remember Mheshimiwa Jango, who was vying as the governor of Kiambu, at one point in a video, he really complained about Kiambu, and he said it is wrong. I remember one of the videos also that has been going around of an agent also in Central Province really pushing and saying, no, before you announce, you need to give us the right numbers. And people started booing him, and all of a sudden he was being beaten. So I think what we need to ask ourselves as Kenyans, and going forward,
right,
is that you have a commission, yes. But you see, even this thing of agents, why would I have agents? If IEBC is honest to itself, you don't need agents. And that is the work of the clerks. I mean, the honesty has to start with the clerk, with the security team that is in that hall. But if you find yourself with a bungled election, it means from the presiding officers, all of them were compromised. And this thing of IEBC coming to employ presiding officers, I mean, like a week or 2 weeks to an election, and they are the ones who will now take over, become the returning officer in that stream. That presiding officer is the one who is supposed to ensure
everything takes place as stipulated in that stream.
So he sends it to, he sends Form 34A straight from his stream to the server or to wherever they are supposed to send. And yet you have no code of conduct, or you have no patriotism of saying, I am the one determining this. And even if we are going back and there will be a rerun, so how do you trust the presiding officers?
Well, just
it's an issue we have to start asking ourselves. As political parties, yes, you must have agents, but in real great democracies, if you had good people, you don't need an agent, by the way. You don't need. You need IEBC officers who are worth trust, that they can sit and ensure an election is run properly and refuse anything called corruption in themselves. And in the end, I will put my ballot. So the agent I need is an agent just to finish, when we have counted and finished, to just sign that, yes, I agree that the process has been done. But you see, you have an agent who must take care of a person who is bribing, a person who is about to just change someone in a polling station, who was just walking in knowing, I'm supposed to vote for you. And he can
decide being turned right
yes,
in there.
And those are some of the things we have to, as Kenyans, ask ourselves. Let's not just look at the process. There are many steps that we must ask ourselves. Why would you as a Kenyan decide to bungle Kenya like this? Ask yourself today, if we are not civilized and if we have not learned our lessons hard, where would be Kenya? Even the chairman, was he really cautious about Kenya? Did he care that this is a country that in 2017 he was about to just take us to another level? So he has taken advantage of, and I could see many Kenyans just saying, see, we have finished, let's move on. Where are you moving on to? You want to sweep it again, cover it, and then it will come to haunt us again. Just the way we have done all this, and we never dealt with Chebukati, and look at where he has taken us again.
Wow, you're watching the People Vs Chebukati. In studio is Dagoretti North Member of Parliament-elect Mheshimiwa Beatrice Elachi. Just two quick issues before we wrap up. Our hashtag is the dawn of justice. There was an order that an audit be done, scrutiny of some 15 polling stations or centers. So one issue was emerging, and I will seek clarity from you. What will constitute, what's a polling station? Because we hear that there are those that are gazetted. Some, it is said that it's... So we also hear of ghost polling stations. So let's begin from the basic. What's a polling station?
The polling stations that were gazetted. When you get into a primary school, so are polling stations. At the end, the primary school becomes like a center. You have those or 700 below, so there are quite a number.
Yes.
Yes. So in total, you might find in that school, roughly 17 to 18,000 people have voted within that center.
Right.
So those are the polling stations. Now the question we should ask ourselves is that if we have centers that, polling stations that were not gazetted, then I don't even see how you even bring those results to say there were results. So the best will happen is you come to Right Honorable, or it went to are not gazetted polling stations.
Stations.
Yes.
Right. And lastly, issue in 2017. The session today, there was a bit of push and pull between the lawyers for the petitioner and the respondent. The server issue. And there was jargon about access levels. What does it mean? Interpretations. Any lines. But is it so emotive?
That is one. And then number two, the server. I don't see an issue. The lawyers are going to go in court. They'll be talking, they'll be saying, And so you need experts to come and look for sure.
Right.
Yes, and then you'll speak upon. You need very good IT guys to come and explain. And lastly, who are the persons who were gazetted to have the password? Yes, and I don't think the chairman should be having the password. He can be shown because he's chair, and even all the commissioners would have been shown. These are how the results are coming in. But the IT guys, the directors of IT in IBC, are the ones who are supposed to answer all these questions. So if the chairman decided even he has it, then you see you have 3 or 4 people. He will be dragged in the same process. So if he was, if you're a good CEO, they have just left it to the secretary, but they will. It will be something. Anytime any commissioner would want to know results, then you come and you get to know the results. And if I'm a good director, I definitely have. This is where we had reached, Commissioner this, and so you can open up and just show. All the commissioners were able, or and we look at everything. When we are agreeing, we have agreed, we have scrutinized, we have verified, we are tallying, send it. See, there is that agreement. Yeah. So I don't know whether they ever had a meeting at one point and say, let's sit down. We have now received results from 10 constituencies. We agree. We have tallied. We have verified, scrutinized. Let's send it now for the public to see.
Right.
I'm hoping they were tallying, verifying, and
Politician, there's one question that the bench, one of the prayer commissioners, because we don't know the outcome, right? Supposing we have to do a rerun, then the chair of the commission is unfit to do so. Then what happens? Because the bench was throwing it back. It's also something that's in the lips of every other Kenyan. What happens?
I mean, we have to first same duty. How? And we don't want to bring in the deputy. They will say, this is, no. You can also give it to the courts to decide and give us someone to run this election. There's nothing wrong with that. The Secretariat manages this process. And so for me, commissioners are neither here or there. And I remember when I was a senator,
Right.
I was one person who had said they cannot be permanent. And people refused. Have left having a new chairman managing the election. They refused. Stagger the commissioners so that there's always you managed one election, you just move out. Whether you see the challenge will be one.
Right.
The Supreme Court can matter,
Yes.
or even talk about it, but you see they can they are able to say, fine, go to to a rerun or whatever they'll call it. Maybe it's not even a rerun. You nullify. You go back to an election. So at an election you're going back to. Else will go to court and to the law. The Supreme Court cannot interfere with where we are. Whoever goes to court down, fine. It is now for the country to think. We have to rethink and bring in and recruit, or we decide to move.
Suggested that that the results were in the favor of the petitioner, that he be announced as the winner. Is that a possibility that you would want to see?
Well, all sides of the judges, what they say, but you see also that this challenge started. Chebukati decided to do a serious scrutiny on him, on his own numbers. Even when you are going to court, you know, you wonder even how, I know even the judges are asking themselves, you see, this is something in public domain. The numbers are not varying. We have so many glaring issues. The process is just wrong. How it ended is wrong. Then you gazette yourself, it's wrong. Then you gazette your winner, it is wrong. There's no place where you're trying to say, we have sat, consulted us this, we have moved, nothing. And so even if you want to give your winner or whatever, I mean, it's difficult for anyone, even me as a lay person, it's so difficult. We must sort it out. I agree with the CJ. We must sort it out once and for all. And so it's not going to be easy for either side. It's going to be very harsh. And so each side just needs to prepare. And you have been a staff for at the judiciary. I don't think going there. It doesn't make sense. You employed other people, we have researchers. What about if you influence them? So for me, the most important thing is for one, it's a case that is very political. That is why you go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not a court like the high, it's a political court. And they have to bring a political decision.
Right.
And that decision must be favorable to make the country run. So it is, I don't want to really say what they'll say, but we know, even in the US, that's why it's a very political court.
Well, I'll give you just a chance to do your parting shot, but there's a new word in town. And I quote lawyer Willis Otieno.
Yes.
Piki, ponki, paka, miele, disco. I do that again. Yeah, piki, ponki, paka, miele, disco. Well, he was alluding to as to how the decision to make the declaration at the bombers was arrived at. And I think
Chebukati did the
yeah,
nursery rhyme.
Yeah, the nursery rhyme, and he has infused a bit of some native language in that. So Mheshimiwa, as I congratulate you once again for being elected in Dagoretti North as their MP, as their representative, as a Kenyan, as a patriot, your parting shot.
Well, I think first I want to thank the people of Dagoretti North, and to say that I know as politicians we talk so much. We promised, but it is my prayer I'll deliver what I promised. I'll do my best. But then also to just appreciate that as Nairobi, I think there are many things that are happening also at the county level. And all we want is to see some of the things that I really want the county and the governor now to do is first of all to come and carry all that garbage that is in Dagoretti North. And we are not a garbage center. I think it's time we need to say that to the county. But having said that, when we look at all what is happening in court, I think the most important thing is we've been very peaceful, and we will continue to be peaceful until the 5th. Secondly, we have a right to speak about other things, but I know when things are in court, I always say it's very good to trade carefully so that we don't find ourselves in being questioned also by the courts. But lastly is that I know the Right Honorable His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga won this election fairly. is people, they walk into those polling stations freely to elect their leader. And it was across the country. And so for us to come and joke right now with all these things and to talk the way we are talking, I think people should really be very cautious and start appreciating that when you see someone just saying things, it's not for the sake of him. I think it's for the future of this country. And for another child from another tribe who would wish to vie as a president, we must sort out this once and for all, and it should never happen again. We should come and say no to this madness of every time we do our elections, we finish, we come, we create a place, we start again, presidential CG what. It has haunted us since 2007. We were told by Kriegler, we must stop it.
Very well, thank you very much. Well, that is where we end it. Thank you very much for watching. You've been watching the People Vs Chebukati, coming to you live from the Azimio TV Center. I leave you with the words of Abraham Lincoln, which was later abbreviated by Bob Marley, that you can fool some of the people all the time. You can fool all the people some of the time, but you can never fool all the people all the time. Thank you for watching and have a good night. Well, thanks, Mheshimiwa. I hope the